in the American Heritage Series. America, this is your heritage.
As citizens, we must vote righteously. And by the way, this first assumes that we are voting. This responsibility to vote and to vote righteously has been made clear from generation to generation. One such voice heralding this responsibility was that of Charles Finney. Finney was a famous American revivalist, a leader in the American revival movement called the Second Great Awakening. He was also the president of a college that even decades before the Civil War admitted both black and white students as equals. In fact, the students from the college where Reverend Finney was president not only became some of the most active conductors of the Underground Railroad, but also started several of America's black colleges and universities. Reverend Finney wisely admonished,
"The time has come that Christians must vote for honest men and take consistent ground in politics. Christians have been exceedingly guilty in this manner, but the time has come when they must act differently." Christians seem to act as if they think God does not see what they do in politics, but I tell you, He does see it, and He will bless or curse this nation according to the course Christians take in politics.
So when voting, no vote should be cast solely on the basis of any party. The values of each individual candidate must be examined. An illustration of this important principle is seen in the life of Dr. Benjamin Rush, a signer of the Declaration, who worked with the Reverend Richard Allen to found the AME Church. Dr. Rush served in the presidential administrations of 3 different presidents, each of whom was from a different political party. How could he do this? What was his own party affiliation? He once explained,
"I have been alternately called an aristocrat and a Democrat. I am neither. I am a Christocrat. I believe all power will always fail of producing order and happiness in the hands of man. He alone who created and redeemed man is qualified to govern him."
Very simply, Benjamin Rush didn't care what a party called itself. When he found someone who stood for God's principles, he would stand with him, no matter the party. The love of correct principles, and not the love of a party, must be the key to our political involvement. Frederick Douglass, who served as a minister of the gospel, had agreed, declaring,
"I have one great political idea. That idea is an old one, is widely and generally assented to. Nevertheless, is very generally trampled upon and disregarded. The best expression of it I found in the Bible. It is in substance, righteousness exalteth a nation. Sin is a reproach to any people." Proverbs 14 and 34. Now this constitutes my politics, the negative and positive of my politics, and the whole of my politics. I feel it my duty to do all in my power to infuse this idea into the public mind that it may be practiced.
Douglass was right. As citizens, we must vote righteously. And by the way, this first assumes that we are voting. This responsibility to vote and to vote righteously has been made clear from generation to generation.
The Scripture says, Proverbs 29:2, that when the righteous rule, the people rejoice. When the wicked rule, the people groan. But in America, neither the righteous nor the wicked rule unless we put them there. If it's the wicked that's ruling, how'd they get there? See, this is a difficulty we have. The Christian community is one of the smallest voting blocks in the nation, although we're one of the largest groups in the nation. If you look back in recent elections, you'll find that among evangelical Christians, and evangelical is defined in polling as those who are serious about their faith. Wow. Those who are really serious. 25% of evangelicals are voting. That's 1 out of 4. That means 3 out of 4 Bible-believing Christians refuse to be salt and light in the civil arena. They refuse to help the righteous rule. They want to see the wicked rule, apparently, because they sit at home and don't do anything. Well, they say, well, I don't know who to vote for. Real simple. Go to our website. We have links to voting records of these guys. We have links to their positions. It's very easy to find. It's not an excuse, but there's web sources you can go to. And if you're wondering about whether to re-elect someone to office, real simple. The U.S. government keeps a record of everything your representative, your senator, has said and done while in office. So if you go to the Library of Congress website, you can type in your representative's name. It'll bring up all the speeches he gave. You can see what he said about abortion, what he said about marriage, what he said. It'll bring up all his votes on any issue. If you want to know exactly what's his position on Israel, type in Israel, bring up the stuff he did on Israel. Easy to know. Easy to hold these guys accountable. Now, we need to, because in any given session of Congress, a congressman deals with between 10 and 13,000 bills a session.
Wow.
I'll guarantee you most citizens only hear 4, 5, or 6 things that a congressman does. You need to go back and see. It's easy to do in this environment, in this age. You can find out. So we need to be informed, we need to be active, and we need to find a spot and get involved. Passive Christianity will not turn this nation back around. It will not change the culture. It will not improve our educational system. It will not improve the media environment and the type of things that come out of Hollywood. It's not going to change the courts until we start getting back involved. We've got to start thinking about the next generation.
Right.
Because, I'll tell you quite frankly, I hope Christ comes back today and screws up every plan I've got. You know? But just in case he doesn't, what do I do for the next generation?
Right.
You know, every generation since Christ was here 2,000 years ago thought he was going to return in their generation. So far, they've all been wrong.
Right.
What if we're another generation and he doesn't return in our generation?
Right.
So that's why it doesn't matter what your eschatology is. The Scripture says, occupy till I come. He's going to come like a thief in the night. Scripture says that. I don't know when it is. It doesn't matter when it is.
Right.
That's not my responsibility.
Right.
Correct.
My responsibility is occupy till he comes. And you can't decide not to be involved in this.
Right.
That's what the Scripture clearly teaches. So America's had a great foundation. It's had great roots. It has had such blessings, but it's been because of an active Christianity. There is a great example of how to do this in the book of Nehemiah. Because in the book of Nehemiah, you had a city that once had been great, that's now torn down. It is rubble everywhere. It's almost like, man, thousands of stones. Which one do I pick up to start rebuilding the wall? And what you find in the book of Nehemiah is that literally, and in that case they were literally rebuilding a wall as stonemasons.
Right.
Who's doing it? Well, if you read the book, you find that a jeweler is out there laying stones. You find that a military guy is out there. A man and his daughters is out there. A perfume maker's out there. These are folks aren't qualified to lay stones. Doesn't matter. They all got involved in doing something. Because when they looked at that, they said, we'll never get this done. And Nehemiah says, yeah, we can do this. Just go find a place to rebuild. And so you find that everyone got involved in doing something. The men of Tekoa built huge sections of the wall. The priests only rebuilt their own home. But you know what? That was a section of the wall. That was part of what has to... So you look around you, and it's not that I can solve the marriage problem or I can solve the religious liberty. Just find something going on and get involved with it. If everybody gets involved, after that whole group got involved, within 52 days they had the whole wall back. They were shocked at how fast it went up because it looked so intimidating when they started. It's where we are in America.
Right.
We got a ton of problems to address, and so we sit back and don't do anything because we don't know which one to go after. It doesn't matter. Follow your heart. God will lead you where you need to go. Get involved in something. It may be a crisis pregnancy center. It may be a tutoring system for schools. It may be helping someone fill out their job resume. You don't know what it is, but if everybody does something, this thing will get back in a hurry. And that's what we need, is everybody getting involved, doing something on the wall, rebuilding the wall in some way. You may not even feel qualified for what you're doing, but if you get involved, if you'll give some time, if you give some energy, some effort, this thing will get turned around.
For more information on the American Heritage Series, or to find books and other resources, visit wallbuilders.com. Through the American Heritage Series, renowned historian David Barton communicates our nation's forgotten, godly foundations and encourages us to once again view history through a truthful lens. For only when we recognize and embrace God's hand in our history can America become all that it was intended to be. Through Wall Builders, historian David Barton seeks to rebuild the walls of America's unique religious, moral, and constitutional heritage by educating the public and encouraging people of faith to become active in strengthening America's great foundations. For more information on how you can become involved, visit wallbuilders.com.